Now, I think it's very safe to say that 2024 was a very challenging year for the Walt Disney Company and its CEO Bob Iger, the executives, the board of directors, you name it. And what looms for 2025 is going to be even more challenging now, not just for Marvel Studios, but also for the Disney live action area when it comes to Snow White 2025. And when it comes down to Marvel, I'm specifically talking about the failed test screenings that really failed miserably, by the way, for Captain America 4. Right now, Kevin Feige is freaking out about that overall situation. We'll have a lot more to talk about that later on. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with She-Hulk actress Tatianna Maslany and how she's taking the ongoing Disney boycott and everything else that's been going on between the Disney Company and the general public. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that he is desperately trying to create a legacy for himself right now before he plans to step down by 2026. That is his game plan. That is his end game, essentially, to call it quits within 2.5 years and to really just go away from the Walt Disney Company and just really look back at what he did. And so far, it's not working in his favor. Everything is becoming a dumpster fire, to say the least, and really not working out at well. Now, what's interesting about all of that has a lot more to do with, of course, what's been going on between different actresses and actors and their overall view about a lot of customers, a lot of those in the general public walking away from the Walt Disney Company and everything that they create, quite frankly. Now, with both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm considered the Disney Company's two most failed divisions, one monumental development going on now has more to do with She-Hulk actress Tatianna Maslany and what she had to actually deliver in response to the growing Disney boycott over the public shying away from Disney after their agenda got exposed. Now, Maslany delivered the following. Look, as a woman who roots for powerful roles and female empowerment at Disney, the one thing that bothers me the most are those out there that are convincing others to stay away from Disney and their brands, like Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, and just everything. It's disgusting behavior for people to act in such a way. When I had the opportunity to play She-Hulk, I found it repulsive that so many Marvel fans walked away after my performance didn't agree with them, and them as in the toxic male demographic, which will never go away, sadly. I think it's really them who are creating all these issues and convincing others to move away from Disney, and it's also the studio's fault for falling into that trap. I completely disagree with Bob Iger's decision to canceling the Acolyte over at Star Wars. It is, though, the biggest mistake that they have ever made in the past couple of years, because that was a serious representation of what we could have established in other brands out there. And then you have these small groups of fans that made so much noise over negative reviews and false ratings over that show. I saw the same exact thing with the She-Hulk series. I mean, we saw something similar with the Marvels as well. Silent majorities do exist, and Disney needs to listen and to not fall into statistical noise online. It's the number one issue right now that the Disney execs, I think, are falling into, are that very statistical noise that guide them in the wrong direction of where to take these massive brands like Star Wars and Marvel. It's very childish behavior as far as I'm concerned, for so many people out there walking away from these brands just because they hear about agenda this or agenda that. There literally is no such thing, and it's the one thing I agree with Bob Iger about. There is nothing wrong with reaching to a wider audience around the globe by embracing DEI. It's a very big world out there full of people, and they all deserve a chance to be in film and television. So guys, let me just stop here real quick, because I really have to really kind of elaborate on what she's putting out there. Now, she's trying to make it seem like everybody hates diversity and equality just for the sake of hating on it. That's not the case at all, but this needs to be said all the time. I have to make it clear. When you focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion over a story on purpose, over pure entertainment on purpose, and you're doing that in way of really throwing in a message or shoehorning an ideology in an actual product, that's when people have a very big problem. And that's when people see through all the fakeness going on over at Disney, and how it's all disingenuous when they say, we're all about entertainment, we're all about pleasing the fans, pleasing the customers, when that's really not true at all. We all know that those over at The View and ABC, the voices of the Walt Disney Company, they are the ones that are also really trying to establish that people that are opposed to DEI are just opposed to it just for the sake of doing that. And it's really just because Disney's focusing on that as a priority over writing a good story. That's really all what it dwindles down to. It's purely simple. It's common sense. It's very easy for any normal person out there to understand, I think. But this is where things begin to pick up even further, is that she goes on to continue and conclude, so this boycott, or whatever you want to label it as, or of those supposed fans walking away, I think are just angry at the world and with themselves. Fandom culture is nothing but a negative chamber nowadays, and it's so difficult to work with whether you are a writer, director, actor, producer, or whatever. It's a serious business. Now, where you will be labeled anything if you support DEI as a priority, and that should be the priority because it's something that has been missing in film and television for far too long. And for customers to walk away from Disney for that sole reason, I think tells us the current state of this country and the entire world, and where we are at right now in the film industry. It's just so sad to deal with. So, look, I think that Maslany, number one, is trying to cope with the fact that nobody wanted to watch She-Hulk. Nobody liked She-Hulk. Now, sure, you have a small percentage that loved that show. That's fine. And if you guys did like that show, hey, I'm not one to judge. Alright? Anybody can like what they want. Anybody can dislike what they want. That's what it boils down to for me when I look at everything. But there's no denying the fact that things out there like She-Hulk, the Marvels, the Acolyte, the Big Three, as I like to say, the big failures over at Disney, Lucasfilm, Marvel, nobody really wanted that because it focused on an ideology, it focused on DEI-driven elements over telling a proper story, a proper tale, if you will, that would actually just provide people entertainment to kind of forget about things for 2.5 hours if it's a movie, or for a couple of months if it's a TV show. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to say that it's all about the toxic male demographic, and it's all about the toxic fandom culture as the sole reason as to why these things are failing. No, it's because of the terrible writing, the terrible directing, the execution, the acting, the line delivery, all of that we have seen in the Acolyte, the Marvels, She-Hulk, and among others out there. You could even argue that that very same thing happened with Agatha all along. Maybe not quite as severe as the other ones that I just listed, but it's there. And we know at the same exact time, Bob Iger is trying to desperately move away from that bad reputation, but at the same exact time, doubling down on that. It's very much contradictory. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.